All right, so get this PuppyGraph. It's been causing quite a stir lately, and we're going to dive into it today.
Yeah, PuppyGraph is it's really tackling this problem, the separation between graph databases and like your typical relational databases that everybody uses.
Yeah, it's like we all know our data is connected, but like getting those insights is a whole other story.
Yeah, and that's where PuppyGraph steps in. It's like a bridge bringing graph analysis right into Snowflake.
Okay, so for our listener who's, maybe prepping for a meeting or just wants to stay ahead, what does this actually mean for them? Like, why should they care about this PuppyGraph thing?
Well, graph analysis is about seeing connections, like a map of relationships. It's not just individual points, it's how they all fit together.
So like instead of just a list of customers, I can see who influences them, the whole network.
Exactly, and imagine you're trying to understand customer behavior with PuppyGraph. You could see who your biggest influencers are, who's likely to buy new products based on their network, even predict trends.
That's some powerful stuff. And we're talking about doing all of this inside Snowflake, right? No need to move all that data around.
That's the game changer, and it's not just about bringing graph analysis to Snowflake, it's about doing it in real time.
Okay, now that got my attention. Anyone who's worked with data knows the pain of waiting for a query to run.
Yeah. PuppyGraph takes care of that. You can analyze tons of data and get insights instantly. Speed is key these days.
It's like data ESP, almost. So the speed comes from running those graph algorithms directly inside Snowflake.
You got it. Normally, using those algorithms meant building these crazy data pipelines, but PuppyGraph simplifies it all. You run them right on your Snowflake data, no extra hassle.
So I can find my most influential customers, map out my supply chain all in a few clicks. Stuff that used to take weeks is now instant.
Exactly. And to make it even easier to navigate those complex queries, PuppyGraph uses openCypher and Gremlin.
It's like a specialized toolkit just for finding those hidden connections in your data. I can see why everyone's talking about PuppyGraph.
It is a very exciting development. And to give you a real-world example, Eastridge Analytics LLC, they've been using PuppyGraph, and they put together this really cool demo.
Okay, I love a good example. What do they do?
So they use Cypher to query their data in Snowflake, looking at the relationships between customers, products, and even social media interactions, all within their existing data warehouse, no moving data around. And then they visualized it all in NeoDash. They could see all those connections and patterns clearly.
Wait, so they could actually see how a customer's social media activity might be influencing their purchases or how different product categories are linked by customer behavior.
Exactly. They uncovered insights that would have been almost impossible to find using traditional methods. It really showed how PuppyGraph can reveal those hidden connections and give you the big picture.
Okay, my mind is blown. I bet our listeners are thinking the same thing, but let's take a quick break and come back in a moment to explore how this could be used in different industries. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, so we're back. And that Eastridge Analytics example really blew my mind, seeing all those connections between customers and products and social media all in one place. That's impressive.
It really shows how PuppyGraph is changing the game, breaking down those barriers between data and graph analysis, opening up possibilities for everyone, not just the data scientists.
So let's talk about those possibilities for our listener who might be thinking, okay, this is cool, but how can I actually use this?
Yeah.
What are some real-world ways PuppyGraph can be applied in different fields?
Well, think about marketing and sales. Imagine mapping out your entire customer network. You could see who your most influential customers are, how purchase decisions spread, even tailor your marketing based on relationships.
So instead of just blasting the same message to everyone, you could target specific groups with the right message at the right time. Exactly. It's about personalized marketing, building relationships, not just getting new customers, but keeping the ones you have. You could even use PuppyGraph to see who might be about to leave based on their behavior and reach out to them.
Like a sixth sense for customer behavior, knowing who's drifting away before they even know it? That's incredible. But marketing isn't everything. How about finance? Could PuppyGraph be helpful there?
Absolutely. One thing it can help with is fraud detection. Imagine being able to visually trace the flow of money and spot those suspicious connections between accounts that might indicate fraud.
Like something out of a movie. But in real life, that kind of insight could be crucial for protecting businesses and customers. And speaking of protection, supply chain management is a big deal these days. Could PuppyGraph play a role there?
Definitely one of the biggest challenges in supply chains is understanding all those complex relationships between suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and everyone else. PuppyGraph can map out that entire network so you can see potential problems, vulnerabilities, and weak points.
It's like having a real-time map of your supply chain. showing you where the risks are and helping you find alternative routes to keep things running smoothly.
Exactly, and it's not just about reacting to problems. It's about optimizing your supply chain, finding the most efficient routes, minimizing costs, even reducing your environmental impact.
It sounds like PuppyGraph is giving companies X-ray vision into their entire operations. But I do have a question. You've mentioned openCypher and Gremlin. Can you explain those a little more for our listeners who might not know about them?
Sure. So openCypher and Gremlin are query languages specifically designed for working with graphs. They're like specialized tools that make it easier to navigate those complex relationships and extract insights.
So instead of struggling with traditional SQL queries, which can be complicated for graphs, these languages offer a more intuitive and efficient way to get the answers you need.
Exactly. They're like a decoder ring for graph data, unlocking those hidden connections and patterns.
This is amazing. I'm starting to think there's no problem PuppyGraph can't solve. But really, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the main takeaway is that PuppyGraph is making graph analytics available to everyone. It's not just for data scientists or big tech companies anymore. With PuppyGraph, anyone can harness the power of graph analysis to understand their data, make better decisions, and discover hidden insights that could transform their business or field. It's about empowering people to see the world in a new way through connections and relationships.
It's like you said earlier, giving everyone X-ray vision. I love it. But on that note, let's take another quick pause before we wrap things up when we come back. I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question to keep them thinking about PuppyGraph long after this episode ends. Stay tuned. And we're back. We've covered a lot of ground today with PuppyGraph.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing to see how this technology is making graph analysis more accessible.
For sure, and that Eastridge Analytics example really showed how you can use it to get real insights from those hidden connections.
It's powerful, and it makes you wonder what other connections are out there just waiting to be discovered.
That's the question I wanted to leave our listeners with today. We talked about how PuppyGraph helps us understand relationships in our data, but what about the ones we haven't even thought of? If you could map out and analyze any relationship in your data, what would you explore?
That's a good one. It makes me think about cross-disciplinary discoveries. What if we used PuppyGraph to connect data from totally different fields, like healthcare and climate science, or education and economics? Who knows what we could learn from those unexpected connections?
Wow, yeah. Imagine seeing how social determinants of health are linked to environmental factors and how that affects chronic diseases, or how education outcomes relate to economic mobility and social justice. It's like a whole new level of understanding.
It really is exciting, and that's what's so cool about PuppyGraph. It's not just technology, it's a tool for curiosity and innovation. It helps us ask new questions, explore new things, and make better decisions that benefit everyone.
It's like giving us a whole new way of seeing the world through those connections and relationships. So to our listeners, we encourage you to learn more about PuppyGraph and think about how you could use it in your own work or areas of interest. You never know what amazing discoveries you might make.
And remember, the most important thing isn't the algorithm or the software, it's your imagination. So go out there, explore those connections, and see what you can find.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into PuppyGraph. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring.